Hi, everyone. This is Terrence Chang, Chancellor of the Connecticut State Colleges and University System and host of this podcast, Office Hours. Through candid discussions, Office Hours explores the intersection of education, leadership, and economic growth. We will hear from state, higher education, business, and industry leaders, and students and faculty who share valuable perspectives that inspire and empower listeners on their educational and professional journeys and delve into the key issues impacting higher education across Connecticut. Joining me today is Dr. David Ferreira, Provost and Vice President of Academic Affairs at Charter Oak State College, Connecticut's only online college. Dr. Ferreira has had an impressive career in higher education, previously serving as the Interim Associate Vice President of Academic Operations at what is now CT State Community College, as well as the Dean of Academic and Student Affairs at CT State Northwestern. He was instrumental in Charter Oak's partnership with Google to launch the Connecticut Online AI Academy. Today, we're going to discuss how this innovative initiative is training our residents for future-focused jobs. Dr. Ferreira, thank you so much for being here today. How are you doing?
Doing great, Chancellor Chang. How are you? Thank you for having me be here.
Awesome. I'm really thrilled to have you here. We've gotten to know each other the past few years. I have great admiration for your work, for your creativity, your innovation, your ingenuity, and, the attitude of just going out there and trying to get it done. So maybe let's just start with, you and your journey, right? How did that come to be that you're an academic that has this kind of entrepreneurial and really innovative spirit? I'd love to hear about how your sensibilities formed from, early in your career all the way up to now.
Yeah. Well, I think it, really has to go back to my background. So I grew up in a single parent household. I was on free and reduced lunch program. And so everything had to make a lot of sense to me, had to have a certain goal in mind. I remember when it came time to go to Southern Connecticut State University for my undergrad, my mother said, look, I have no money for you for college, but I could put a roof over your head. And I said, deal, let's move that forward. And so I think making sure that whatever we do, it has value, it has purpose, it leads to our long-term goals, and just coming in from that mindset. And also at the same time, question the way that higher education works. I remember when I actually went to go to Southern Connecticut, and so I was a kid where I was poor. I was working over 30 hours a week to put myself through school. And I remember the academic advisor there said, okay, well, your scores are okay, not great. You're poor, you're working a lot. Let's put you part-time. And I remember my mother, who only had a GED, grabbed the academic plan that was on that cardstock, right, back in the day. And she just goes, well, in order to graduate in 4 years, he has to take 5 classes. And they're like, yeah. He goes, so he just takes 5 classes. That's just the way it is. And that it brought back to, don't stereotype the student because of who they are and their background and what they do. Have the confidence, and also understanding that we have a goal in mind. And so sometimes going back to basics is a way to kind of be innovative, because now years later, they did a 15 to finish. They said, no, we should be going full time, because a 4-year degree should take 4 years. So just coming in just from that basic mindset, in that kind of that meat and potatoes type of background, really kind of said that we should not just take what people say as the convention at the time and make it, the way that we should do it. We should really look for ways of how to have everyone have the same opportunity to get there and finish and graduate on time, on schedule, so that they can meet their career goals.
I love that. Thank you. And thank you for sharing an honest piece of your background, right? And I think that's really important for people to understand about our leaders, right? Is that, you as an example are very just frankly normal human being who came from where you came from, and you've been making it work. And that's wonderful. What a wonderful example for our students. So let's talk about value, because, I would argue Charter Oak is the state's secret weapon, the most valuable hidden gem of the system and the state has the highest upside for educating as many Connecticut folks and folks from around the country, to be quite honest with you, if we can reach them. You all consistently score very high in multiple rankings. So let me give you the floor. Just pitch Charter Oak and say, hey, this is where we could go, where we are now, but where we can go.
Yeah. I think as we go into the conversation about value, right? We were recently ranked in the top 500 as far as institutions when it comes to that. When the methodology, and this is what we use, that's what was used for methodology, was your retention rates, your graduation rates, your median income, right? Your income after graduation, and also do you pay back your student loans, right? So your default rates, and then a couple other factors there. But when you have those as your methodology, Charter Oak was the top public online institution in the country, right? And because our retention rates and our graduation rates are basically what you would find for an on-ground state university, right? We have the highest median income within the CSCU system, right? Our default rates are the lowest in the system. And so we know then, because we have that affordability, people do not take on as much debt in order to accomplish their educational goal. And so I think one of the things that we are really doing is helping to turn back on that value proposition negative connotation with higher education, because we want to make sure that every dollar that is spent over at Charter Oak is a dollar that's going to go towards making sure that you achieve your goal, and that you can actually move forward in your career. We know that our data from Connecticut Department of Labor shows, right, that students after they graduate within 6 months, they get like it's a enormous increase in their salary, and so we see that they have an instant impact on improving their lives. But then also the biggest thing, and because I'm passionate about us being an open admissions institution, right? And this is where I come from my background too. It's not only about making sure that you are moving forward, but if you come from poverty like I did, it's about breaking the generational poverty that goes in. So we don't just have an impact on this generation, we have an impact on the next generation and generation after that. So that is the dollar for dollar best investment that the state can make.
Awesome. Yeah, and I totally agree with you, right, on every point that you just hit about the value of Charter Oak. We do want to talk about Google, but one last question just about Charter Oak in general, right? I mean, you, me, others have heard this idea that Charter Oak will cannibalize, right, or basically take away students from other Connecticut institutions, especially our own CSCU institutions. Share some of your thoughts on that.
And well, I think you have to take a look at, one, students are going to vote with their feet, right? And it's about modality. It's about providing for students that do seek an online option because it is the best option for them. They're not going to go to an on-ground institution. They may not even go to a hybrid institution. And so it's about making sure that we give accessibility to those where online is their best option for them due to their life circumstance and their lived experience. And the second thing I'll say is take a look at the data, right? Even before the pandemic, online graduate institutions, the completions, which is a lag measure, right? But the completions between 2015 and 2019 for online graduate programs went up 120% in the state of Connecticut. All right. It went down for on ground. Even before the pandemic just accelerated what was already happening in the globe and in the world and in the state. And so if I was an institution that had an on-ground institution, I mean, look, 10 years ago, if I was invested in expanding my online graduate programs, you would be reaping those benefits today. So again, we're not here to compete with the CSU. Those are our sister colleges. And for many students, again, at the pandemic, online wasn't for them. And as soon as they can go back on ground, they went back on ground. And you know what? That is the best option for them. And also for a CSU, having online as part of their repertoire should be part of their strategic enrollment. But, what we're about is identifying those students where Online is their option. Affordability is their big decider of who they are. And so we're just providing that accessibility.
Absolutely. So, well, perfect segue, right? Because this partnership between Charter Oak and Google to launch the Connecticut Online AI Academy, tell us more about this and ultimately how this partnership came to be.
And it always starts with an idea and a person. And in this particular scenario, Senator James Maroney, from Milford, has interacted a little bit with Charter Oak in the past. And he said, I have this idea for a Connecticut Online AI Academy. Charter Oak, you're the public online college. Do you think you can go ahead and provide this? And I said, well, yeah, we can definitely do so. But one caveat that if we do this, I want to make it free for every single resident of Connecticut. That's the only way we can do that, because I want to make sure that it doesn't matter if you're over in Farmington, Granby, Bridgeport, Hartford, wherever. I don't want your zip code to dictate if you should be able to get this experience. And so that was the big thing. And obviously the senator was also very much on board with this. So it started with that idea. And then from there, once you have an idea, then you're like, okay, now let's see how we can go ahead and make this happen. And so luckily with CSCU, we went down to the Business Higher Education Forum, and I was sitting next to a representative from Google. And, obviously that person's interacted with the senator, and we went over this concept. And I said, would Google be interested in maybe being an educational partner here for us? Because in order to do something like the Connecticut Online AI Academy, what you need is support to make sure that you can do this from a financial side, pay for instructors, but then also if you're able to get curriculum from somebody who can help us out. And Google was able to provide that with us, which is anyone who goes through the course. We use the Google AI Essentials course, and in essence, like your textbook and software. And we were able to get that free of charge, those licenses free of charge, because of Google's partnership. So it started with an idea, but then it continued on with a engagement of who could be a partner with you on this.
That's great. And you're 100% right. And nothing happens unless we go and just make it happen, right? And so Senator Maroney, obviously very engaged and thoughtful, and you all took that opportunity to take that idea and turn it into something. This is going to be cost-free to Connecticut residents. That's amazing that, again, something that CSCU is bringing to the table that other higher education institutions, right, and specifically Charter Oak is bringing to the table that other higher education institutions in our state are not doing, which is bringing this kind of value. So we need to amplify that even more. So let's get into some of the nuts and bolts here. Right. When you go through this experience, you go through the academy, what are folks going to learn? What are they going to gain? And how do you think that ends up positioning them in the job market?
Yeah. So one of the great things, we just got done with our one of our first cohorts. We're just starting our next cohort of the ones for the general public. We did some beta versions before we launched this. And so I can speak to you from the experience of actually also I teach in it as well, just to make sure I get that experience. And so it's about how to use general AI tools and generative AI tools to develop ideas, content, inform decisions, and speed up your daily work tasks. It's also how do you identify and use AI responsibly? As I said, because one of the big things about who we should be as higher education institutions is about how do we make good informed citizens. And so that making sure that this is available for all citizens of Connecticut, but then also how do we make them good citizens to make sure how we can ethically use it and responsibly use it is important. And then obviously, the nuts and bolts of how do you do prompt engineering and specific prompts in order to get desired output, because the better you input, the better the output is going to be. And then finally, how do you stay up to date with artificial intelligence, because it is moving at such a rapid pace. Microsoft came out with a report in 2024, in May of 24, that 2/3 of employers now need you to have AI literacy skills, which just takes you from novice to knowledgeable as the AI Academy, those AI literacy skills in order to get a job. When we first started this endeavor, people were asking me, well, Dave, what specific job can you get with this? And now it's not what about specific job. It is in order to get a job is you need this, right? This is what Microsoft Office was 20 years ago, that you just need this to get a job. And so, and in fact, also three-quarters of employers, close to three-quarters of employers said, I would rather hire somebody with less experience, but knows AI literacy skills versus somebody who has more experience, but doesn't have the AI literacy skills, because that AI literate person is going to be much more productive in the workplace. And also, by the way, helps out our graduates who may not have the experience, but now they have those skills in order to be ready for the workforce.
This is the world we live in now, right? It's not an if or when. It's like right here, right now, and we need to be at the fore as much as possible. I want you to kind of tell me if you were king of the world and you could meld Charter Oak and AI into the CSCU system of your dreams. And I'm just going to tell you right now, if I can steal some of your ideas and make it happen, I'm certainly gonna. I'll give you a footnote, of course, but give me the Dave Ferreira vision of CSCU, Charter Oak, AI, CSCU, go.
Yeah, I think the big thing for CSCU, for anything else, is when we sometimes talk about AI, and this is another piece too, is we start to get a little bit too fancy, and we're thinking about the quantum piece, and again, all those things are important, and but here's the things at CSCU. Doesn't matter which are the institutions. We're not going to be making the next Grok or Llama, or if you don't know those words, like we're not going to be making those language models that MIT is going to make and things of that nature. What we're going to be doing is actually what I would love to have is, let's say, a Center for Applied AI, right? Because it's going to be the administrative assistant where half of their job tasks are going to be reallocated, not replaced, reallocated with artificial intelligence. It's going to be that person in marketing and sales and software development and everything else. And so across all these different industries. And so what CSU should be doing is to say, how are we training the workforce and society for the mass disruption of artificial intelligence and where it's actually going? I call it AI for the masses. And in an analogy I give is like with the airline industry, right? There's the people who build the planes, and then there's the people who work for the airline industry. And there's a lot more people who work for the airline industry than who actually build planes, right? The MITs, they're going to be building the planes. They'll be building the next Groks or whatever it might be. What we're going to be doing is making sure we have the air traffic controllers, the flight attendants, the pilots, the baggage claim handlers, and the operations around it. That's what we should really be concentrating on, is how do we make sure that through all of our programs of study, where does artificial intelligence take them 2 to 3 years from now? And how are we engaging our students now? Because the number one thing, this was true when we had our last graduations nationwide, that students felt ill-prepared for artificial intelligence because we didn't cover it over in their higher ed experience. So we should be infusing it in every single one. The PwC recently came out with, late last year, came out with a report about wage premiums for people who have AI practitioner skills. So it's a little bit more advanced than literacy. And the number one wage premium, 49% wage premium for lawyers, right? Because every single law firm is now going to need to have a lawyer who's also an AI practitioner who can work with that small language model or large language model to make sure it doesn't make up case law, right? Because you don't want to submit that to the judge. There's a famous case about that. So everyone needs to have that. You need to have that practical knowledge of your industry, but then every team member is going to need to have a practitioner who can do that. So accountants are going to have a 30% wage premium. Software developers, 25% wage premium. So are we building those wage premium jobs into all of our programs of study? That's the thing I think we should be doing through a Center for Applied AI.
Yeah, I think that is an amazing vision and something very worthy of pursuing, with our provosts across the system, with our presidents across the system, because I think you're right. What you just mentioned about in law firms, right? If you're just using AI without checking it and AI is just making stuff up, right? Then we've got a problem. And I think that's part of what the perceived threat is, Are you one of those believers that the singularity is inevitable and that AI is going to take over the world, or that humans will still find a way to be relevant and maybe contain technology to our benefit instead of our demise?
Yeah, actually, when I give talks on artificial intelligence, I give a poll out for about where people's comfort level is on AI. And one is, I'm totally excited. I'm all in. Let's go. I'm a mix of nervous and excited. I still haven't made up my mind. And then the last one is, I want to hop in a DeLorean and travel back to 1985 for, again, showing my age, right? And so where I am personally is I'm a mix of excited and nervous. And again, there's no wrong answer on that one, but I think that it holds so much potential. I'm seeing what's going on with cancer research, right? These have things to fundamentally change the world in such a positive way. But then also we know that there's deep fakes. People who have bad intentions now have a much more efficient way to do bad things. And so we also know about the bias and making sure, for example, that we've seen those examples in HR with hiring of because the language model wasn't trained because of where they came from. They discriminated against females or things of that nature. So we have to make sure that we're constantly on it, where we are centering ourselves around our ethical usage. And then as long as that's in the background and we have checks and balances, like, for example, when I'm working with an AI vendor, I ask the AI vendor, how often do you audit your tool for bias? And then when do you identify bias? Not if, but when. How do you inform me as the client? Now, if they don't audit their tool, okay, thank you, next. We're going to go on someone else. If they say, well, we audit it, but we don't identify bias, well, that's another red flag, right? No tool is perfect. So I think there's things that we can be doing to make sure that I'm excited of where we're going. I'm excited about the prospects of it. I'm excited about doing those wage premiums for all of our programs of study to make sure our students are equipped for the 21st century. But making sure that we also have that ethical usage in the back of our mind and making sure we're vetting it every step along the way.
Yeah, ethical usage is absolutely key, right? Because at the end of the day, we're trying to make people better, right? And hopefully ethics and values and, trying to help people is part of that. I'll close by saying that I admire your innovation, your tenacity, your clear-headedness, your balance, your work ethic is undeniable. And the fact that you never say no, you always say, let's see, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how we make progress, right? And so I hope that I hope I can continue to support you and Charter Oak, and I can hopefully see you in this system for a long time, because you're exactly the kind of leader we need to keep pushing.
And I want to say thank you, because honestly, this only happens when we work with our system and actually helping us make those connections, and also the support. And I got to say, we've had the greatest level of support. When I started here at Charter Oak, they used the term hidden gem. And I said, I like the gem part. I don't like the hidden thing. And you, through your leadership, has elevated that conversation where we still have to prove ourselves. We still have to do what we need to do, but you're bringing us into the fold. And so I just want to say we really do appreciate that leadership, because you're like, whoever can make it work, right? That's where we go. And I said, it's much appreciated what you've done and helping us move this forward. Nothing happens. None of these things, the AI Academy or anything else, none of these things happen without leadership and support at all the levels.
Well, it takes a cumulative vision, right? Provost Ferreira, keep doing what you do. Well, thanks for tuning in to Office Hours. I'm Terrence Chang, Chancellor of the CSU system. Please be sure to subscribe to our podcast and listen in to future episodes where we discuss the importance of higher education and why higher education should be a part of Connecticut's growth strategy with state and business leaders and students, administrators, faculty, and staff.